Hi, my name is Danny Fleming.
I'm Marcus Collins from MA Properties, and we have tonight the 2021
Real estate market
Real
update.
estate market. Real estate market update.
Real estate market update. So thank you for joining us. Let's go in. Why are we doing what we're doing? So this is a market update that's going to explain what's happening with the market, because it's easy to get information and data today, much harder to make sense of what you're seeing. Yep. So we're going to explain it all to you. And it's why we take the time to explain. We're serious about learning every data point in detail, and why we study our markets so obsessively.
As you'll see in a minute.
Yeah, one of these things, where can I find this information? So before we get into too much, we want to show you where you can find this information. If you go to our website, and this is the home page, and you scroll down, you've got real estate statistics. If you click on this, you've got a whole array of different sorts of statistics. And these statistics are town-based. And we have over 50 towns, really the wider Boston area.
Greater Boston area, yeah.
Greater Boston area, even out to outside of 495. So you find a whole lot of towns. If you're interested in this area, we've got the statistics for you. So you've got all sorts of things. These are just, by clicking on one of these, you can go and choose which town and what property type. But let's go further down here. You've got a whole lot of sort of stuff here. You can even check on past sales in a town and different things. So where I'm going with this though is we're going to take you through a whole lot of stats, and tonight we're doing the Arlington real estate market. Now, you might not be interested in Arlington, you might be interested in Winchester, or you might be interested in Belmont or Cambridge. You can use the sorts of information we're going to show you and go into the stats page on our website and find this exact same information for that specific town that you're interested in. So that's where you go for the information. So let's back to the presentation. Yep, keep going. Okay, and here's just the, a screenshot of what we just showed you before. We also have the information if we're talking about Arlington. If we're talking about Arlington, on the website we also have a market review that we did at the beginning of 2021 that talked about the Arlington market in 2020. And the agenda is we're talking about single family homes, condominiums, and 2021 predictions. Let's go. Take over now.
Okay, buckle up.
Buckle up, absolutely. There's going to be a lot of data here. So,
all right, so single family homes. I'm going to look at an array of different stats and hopefully weave a story that will give you a sense of what's happening with the market. So first graph I want to show you is the inventory levels. What this is how many homes are available to buy in the case of the information I'm showing here on the first of the month. So if I take a snapshot on the first of the month and say how many homes are available to buy, what you can see, there's a lot going on in terms of the historical data, but let's focus it very much on 2020 and 2021. As you can see here, we had relatively high inventory levels.
Not when you compare it to 2006.
No, not when you compare it to that, but I'm not going back. I can tell you the story back, but let's not go there. What I'm really interested in is 2021. As you can see, some very, very low inventory levels in 2021. Now, what many people do is confuse inventory levels, that is how many homes are available to buy, with supply. Low inventory must mean low supply. Well, that's not the case. If, for example, you have lots of demand, a home comes on the market, it immediately sells. And so it's not surprising in this market, specifically in the Arlington market, to see very low inventory levels, but relatively stable, relatively high in comparison to the supply. This is what this is. The number of home sales in the town. And let me explain the colours before I explain what we're looking at. Blue is existing homes. Green is new construction, a small part of the market here in Arlington.
Gosh, when you look at 2021, it looks like there's only been one or two
very
or
few.
three
Yeah,
new
very
construction
few.
homes sold.
Very few.
Yeah.
And then the kind of orange sliver is the teardowns. So predominantly the homes that sell in Arlington are clearly existing homes. The red is our projection for where we think we will end up at the end of 2021. So here we are. This data is for the end of August. So we've got 8 months of the year. We bring a whole array of information in from different years as well as some other information to try and come up with what we see as our projection for the year.
And that's based on the pro rata. That's based on the ratios of prior years.
Yeah, and some other things,
okay.
just like I said.
Yeah.
I say you can see over those years, last few years, we've seen relatively static number of home sales in Arlington. Now that's not all towns are like this. Arlington has seen those static number of home sales. A little different from other towns, but that's kind of driving the market. A relatively high number of home sales, but nowhere near enough to satisfy the demand in the town. That's why you see low inventory levels. So separate inventory level from supply. The two are very much different. So with high demand, static supply, unsurprisingly, the number of days on the market, how long it takes for a home to sell, is at an all-time low. I don't think we can get much below 15 days. It's just the mechanics of homes coming on the market and how quickly they can sell. So you're at about the lowest number it can actually get to. This low number is very much a symptomatic of high demand. Yeah. There's another ratio we look at, which we use to gauge buyer confidence, buyer sentiment, if you like. And that's the ratio of the sale price to the list price. So imagine a home comes on at $700,000 and it sells at $700,000. That's 100% sale price to list price ratio. If you look at this graph, just for information, that's 100% there. Right, I haven't bothered going below 90 because it never gets below 90. And that's 100%. But as you can see, here we are in 2021, 109%. So on average, homes in Arlington are selling for about 10% over asking. Now, there's some backstory to this one too, though. What this does not say is every home that sells in Arlington sells for 10% over asking. It absolutely doesn't say that. If you look at this ratio and the distribution of this ratio, there are a lot of homes that sell for way more than 10%.
Well, we sold one of our homes that we had in Arlington earlier this year in June, July, and we sold it for 130% of asking price. So for how many are sold at those higher ranges of 130%, 125%, 120%, there's an awful lot that sell below the asking price to have an average of 109. So I think where you're going is don't just assume that you can come on the market at any price and you'll have competing offers. It's definitely not that. And what we do is we have a seller's masterclass next Wednesday where we try and explain the 5 keys to maximize your sales price, because we don't want our sellers to be in those group of sellers that sell for below the asking price. We want our sellers to be in the group that sell over the asking price. Right. Sorry, I
That's fine.
took over, didn't I? Keep going.
What you should know is that...
we're married.
Yeah, so it happens all the time. I'm used to it. I know when to keep quiet. I got it down.
Good lad.
I figured that
Good
one out
lad.
a long time ago. Just saying. So the key thing from this is do not assume that every home that comes on the market will sell for 10% over asking. That is not the case. Many will sell for a lot more. Many will sell for less than the asking price.
And we have a home coming on the market next week in Arlington, and also a home coming on the week after that in Arlington. So we'll be able to talk about
what's happening specifically in the fall market.
In the fall market.
Yeah, which is kind of an interesting in time as we kind of think about what's going to happen in 2022, the fall market is really going to give us a lot of information to allow us to hone that prediction, if you like. 102 in 2020 is still a pretty high number in comparison to the towns around, but you can see if we now look at this information month by month, you can see 2021 kicking in. So the orange line here running across the graph, that's the sell price to list price ratio month by month. And as you can see, we're over 100% through most of 2020, latter part of 2020. But as soon as we get to 2021, up it goes. And in fact, we had over 110% in the month of June. So homes that closed in June sold for over 110. So you can see a definite difference from the very strong market we saw in 2020 into the even stronger market in 2021.
And remember, the blue bars there are the homes that closed. As Marcus said, the homes that closed in those months. So you've got to factor in a 6 to 8 week lag period. They typically went under agreement 6 to 8 weeks prior to their date of closing. So, you know, you need to sort of
bring it back. I don't compensate for when the home went under agreement. This is when the home actually sold.
So where you've got that January one where it was 100%, they were typically homes that went under agreement late November, December that closed in January at 100%. So, yeah.
So, no surprise, high buyer confidence, static supply, a very high sell price to list price ratio means average prices are higher. You know, they're up considerably higher than we've seen previously in terms of that difference. It is much higher than we've seen different. And here we are in Arlington, well over $1 million is the average sale price.
And last year it was what, 950, 950, and now it looks like it's $1,050,000.
Yeah, I would say $1,050,000, yes. So it's gone up at least $100,000, probably a little bit more. 930, I think, from recollection last year, something like that. So over 100,000 in terms of the average.
And what we were talking about there about, you know, what the current average is, it's that dotted red line you'll see on these graphs, because you can go and check what Belmont's is. You can go and check what's happening with Winchester. You can go and check 50 odd towns. Looking at that dotted red line is what is the average so far this year.
Right. So blue is historical, and then green is month by month.
Yeah.
So interesting to look at what the impact of COVID was on the housing market. And here's an interesting way to look at that. I'm going to compare 2019 with 2020, and then unsurprisingly we'll get to 2021. So what we've plotted here is the cumulative sales, actually when the home goes under agreement, because I don't want that 6-week delay that Danny talked about just a moment ago. So this is when a home went under agreement, and you can see the impact of COVID. Well, I should explain. Blue is 2019. The orange color, pink color is 2020. Here's COVID here.
When it started impacting.
Right. As you can see, we had more homes selling early part of 2020 than we saw in 2019, primarily because of the winter. That's kind of, there's some seasonal effects there. But then this flattening of this curve in 2020 was the impact of COVID. But as you can see here, by the time we got to late April, early May, the housing market had rebounded. And you know, we got back to parity by about this time last year, actually. By about September, that's where we are. We kind of carried on parity moving forward.
Not much of a difference compared to last year.
Right.
Compared to 2019.
Yeah, 2020 versus 2019. Yeah. But you can definitely see that flattening, if you will, in terms of the number of homes that went under agreement as COVID, the impact of COVID, and then you know as the housing market came back in late April, May, so it kind of bumped back up. Here's another way to look at it. There's that this is the difference between 19 and 20, and you can see where we got into negative territory. That's the impact of COVID. So. That was 2019, 2020. Now I want to look at 2021 and 2019. I'm using 2019 really as a baseline. It was the traditional seasonality that we see year in, year out. And so let's compare where we are in 2021 versus 2019. and avoid that kind of COVID effect, if you will.
The COVID effect.
Do you like that?
I like that COVID.
Flattening of the curve. See?
COVID
effect.
Yeah, okay. Instead of the COVID-19 and COVID-20.
COVID effect.
We all, I don't know about you, but I know COVID-20 quite well. Damn.
We're back kind of roughly the same trajectory that we saw in 2019, just slightly higher. But, we'll see. At the end of the year, we'll be there or thereabouts where we were in 19. But you can see it's tracking very much the way we were in 19 versus 20. And you can see another way to look at it here. We're only about 12 homes above where we were in 2019. So not a big difference in terms of the number of homes that are selling. And actually what that means is, given that most things will eventually sell, just that's the number of homes that are listed. We are very much supply limited here in Arlington. We need more supply to satisfy the demand for people who want to move into the town. And we'll see that why that's the case in a moment.
And it's even lots of suppliers still not satisfying the demand.
Right.
So yeah, if you're thinking about selling, bring your home up, because there's lots of activity, lots of demand for it.
Very much.
Yeah.
So, quick look at condominiums. Same idea here with condo sales. Blue is existing and so on. Looks like we are running much higher in 2021 than we saw in 2020 and or 19. So more condominiums are selling this year in comparison to what we saw last year. Again, the red is our prediction. So a strong condominium market in terms of the number of sales, which is a good thing. In terms of prices, a little bit higher, not very much. From recollection, $690 we were, the average price was last year, and now we're probably about $720, something like that, looking at the kind of where we are, the running average. So not a huge increase in prices. We're seeing this in many towns, actually. Single family, seeing large increases in average sale prices. Condominiums, less so, which is interesting.
But that does make sense, because in 2020, we definitely saw an impact to the condominium market with COVID, because we had a large number of people moving out of the city, moving out of shared accommodation, being nervous, being in a shared environment. And condos are typically shared environments, whether we're talking about a shared common entry or shared doorways or shared elevators, things like this. People's fundamental values on what they want has shifted, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as moving forward. But that's where I think we're seeing it with condominiums.
There's definitely a premium for single families. With that little bit of space, that yard, slightly larger home, of course, that kicks in as well, with perhaps one or two people now working from home. So there's a lot going into why single families are much preferred over condominiums, and you can see that not so much in the home sales. They are still selling, clearly, but they're not selling for that much more than we saw in prior years. So that's kind of interesting. Sale price to list price ratio is up 104%, 101 last year. And remember, we're at 110% or so when it came to single families. So it is, bumping up that little bit. So that's kind of interesting. Danny mentioned that condominiums, there's kind of a shift in the condominium market, and this is month by month sale price to list price ratios for 2020, and you can see that ratio dipping down at the latter part of 2020 just because of that impact. A lot of homes come on the market, I should say, in terms of condominiums, but more than we ordinarily expect, and you'll see that in a moment. But you can see that ratio is kind of just depressed somewhat.
Yeah. That was very much so in the fall market last year. I know we had a couple of condos on the market in Arlington, actually a few, and a couple of different towns around, and we were seeing it impacted more dramatically week after week after week as more and more homes came on the market. It was week by week, it was changing dramatically.
Right. And you can see that a little bit if we compare back to this cumulative graph you showed you previously. We compare 2019 versus 2020, and you can see at it kind of tracked there or thereabouts until we got to the fall market, where the number of condominium sales got much higher than we saw in 2019. So we got an excess number of homes coming on the market eventually selling, that's true, but selling for less because there are so many, and because there was a kind of shift in terms of condo, shared living, before vaccinations, of course, this was, people even today see a definite premium in single family, and that's definitely the case in terms of the second half of 2020. You can see that again with the difference. Where we are this year, we're tracking at about the same trajectory, but at a much higher rate. So we are seeing more homes selling. This again is 2019 versus 2021. More condominiums selling. But because so many are selling, so many are on the market, yes, they're selling, but they're not selling with that premium that single families are selling for. So that's kind of
Although having said that, 104%.
Oh yes, not to be sniffed.
Yes,
absolutely.
But it's just different to the 109% for single families.
That's right. Yeah, in normal years, 104 would be, wow, what's going on?
Yeah.
Arlington was running, even single families in traditional years, running about 101, 102%. But so 104 is a great ratio, but it's just nowhere near as strong as you would expect in the single family market. So, what's going on in the market? I mean, Danny hinted about this coming in. What's shifting to cause this excess of buyers, say static supplies we've seen in prior years, so the same number of sellers are want to sell, but we're seeing a lot more buyers in the market.
And a lot of people, you can hear a lot of the pundits talking, you can see, there's articles in the paper, there's discussions amongst people. What's going to happen with this housing bubble? I don't know. We don't think it's a bubble because it's not something that's being impacted by external forces. It's something that's fundamentally shifting with what an owner of a home is looking for in their home. It's a fundamental value shift. What's important in the home that they live in? It might be being close to family. We had our youngest son and his fiance move from LA to Boston back in December last year because they wanted to be close to family. We were selling 3 homes at one period of time in 3 weeks earlier this year, and every seller was moving to San Diego because of the warmer weather. It's with people working from home and the kids doing their classes from home, people wanted but larger homes or further out. They don't have to commute into Boston anymore, or maybe it's moving to 2 days a week commuting into Boston. So let's move further out where they can buy more house for the money. There's a whole lot of factors as to what people value in their home that they're living in. So, and it's not just in Arlington, it's across the country that this is happening. There's a migration of people moving homes to better meet their needs of a home to live in. So I think COVID has done that to us. COVID has made us start to rethink, what's important to me? Okay, I know what's important to me. We need to sell so that we can buy something that's more important to me. So
right.
That's
a big drive in the market. I mean, there's one other thing as well in driving the market, back to what was driving the market in 2019, and that's a demographic shift too. So if we look here, this is census data from 2015, that looks at, so it's a population pyramid, that looks at how many people are in which age bracket. There's 2 areas that are important to us here in thinking about what's driving the housing market. And I've highlighted these in yellow here. The top bar is the baby boomers, the children born after World War II, now beginning to think about retirement, and with retirement comes downsizing. Sell a house they're currently in, move into, in general, a smaller home or a home somewhere else. The lower yellow bar there is the millennials, the first-time home buyers. They're looking to move out of the rentals in Cambridge, Somerville, Boston, into their first home. And if you think about Arlington, it finds itself situated beautifully for both of those groups, very close to Boston. got a great, easy commute into Boston. So it's an obvious destination for those first-time home buyers moving, Boston, Cambridge, Arlington. But for the downsizers too, they're looking in general for a smaller home if they're staying in the area. They're looking for a smaller home. So you think about Winchester, Lexington, Belmont, the towns that surround it. This is an ideal destination for a downsizer. They can move into a smaller home. Homes in general are smaller in Arlington than those towns, but still be close to their circle of friends.
And restaurants.
And restaurants. And Boston. and.
Areas that they know.
Right.
Yeah.
So the market was and still is driven by these two groups of people. So as you think about moving forward, we've got three things going on. We've got the downsizers, we've got millennials, the kind of demographic shift, if you like, and we've got what you just...
the COVID effect.
There we go. I think that was
We've just coined that
We
now.
just coined that. There we go. So yeah, that's what's driving the market. And as you think about longer term, the demographic shift isn't going anywhere. It's kind of here for the long haul, at least the next 5-10 years. It'll be interesting to see at what point the COVID effect kind of works its way out of the system, so that those people who need to find a different home because it now meets their requirements today will kind of all have essentially bought that home. So we will over time get back to the normal drivers in the market, which is the demographic shift of buyers looking for smaller homes in terms of their kind of downsizing, or their first home in terms of first-time home buyers. So that's kind of the big picture in terms of our predictions. Both those effects will be in clearly around today. The COVID effect kind of outstrips everything today. 2022, it's still going to be there. There just are so many buyers in the market today looking for something different that I just can't see that being able to kind of work its way out of the system in 2022. So that's here for a little bit longer.
Do you want us to talk about our predictions now, or in the prediction section?
I'm laying the foundation. So what else is going on? So worth it looking at interest rates. People talk about this a lot. I think it's overplayed. My opinion, I'll explain why. Here's interest rates, they're relatively low. This isn't a damper for people being able to buy a home, even if interest rates rose a little bit. The biggest challenge is average prices have gone from $930,000 to $1,050,000. Well, that's pricing buyers out of the market. So the big change that's happening here, or the big kind of potential change to the market, is that buyers are just not going to be, who want to buy in Arlington, just can't afford it and will be forced to go to other towns. So interest rates, people talk about them a lot, but they just say, given what the increase we've seen, 13, 14, 15% increase in house prices, that's much more important than interest rate rises.
When you think about it, if the mortgage interest rate goes up just a little bit, it's an extra $20 a month.
Yeah.
Okay. But you compare that to an extra $100,000 in purchase price.
Yep.
That's the one that's the limiting factor. It's not the $20 a month jumps with a change in interest rate. So that's not something that's going to impact the market.
No, it's the house price increases that will have a much bigger impact.
Yeah.
So
predictions.
Come on, get your crystal ball out there, Danny. Let's see what we've got.
So we've been talking about this for a while, only because 2020 was such a dramatic year for all of us. And what was going to happen in 2021? Well, 2020, our normal seasonality did not apply. We stopped bringing homes on the market in April because people were scared to go into homes and all of this sort of stuff, and we were hunkering down. In our normal seasonality, August is always dead. It's always, the fall market is only a 6-week market, and then the rest of the year, plays in. Last year, none of that applied. August was really, really busy. October was really busy. November was busy. We even bought a house on the market.
Saw that with the condominium graph we just showed you. They were closing in December.
Yeah, we bought a home on the market the weekend before Thanksgiving. There's no way we would normally do that. But the buyers were out there because we're talking about single families, not condominiums. And there was such a short supply, low inventory of single families, that the buyers were still out there. So if you wanted to sell, we were bringing your homes on the market. And the home that we bought on the weekend before Thanksgiving had 17 offers on it. I mean, that's unheard of. And that's what happened from the beginning of this year as well. We bought homes on the market second week in January. And it's continued. Now, during this year, we've been talking, when is this going to change? When are we going to start getting back to our normal seasonality? And we predicted that most probably August wouldn't be as busy as last year, but it would probably be busier than a normal August is. And that's what actually happened, because when you think about it, a large proportion of people in Massachusetts are vaccinated. People are now starting to get more and more comfortable with traveling and going and visiting family and things like this. Well, sure, the Delta variant's putting a little bit of a damper on that, but people in Massachusetts are still fairly comfortable going and getting out and going out to restaurants and things. We've also got kids back at school in person. There's all of those things are now starting to get us back to normal, and that's starting to impact the market as well. As I say, August wasn't as busy as last year, but it was still busy. We anticipate that the remainder of 2021 is going to be fairly strong. I've got folks that are thinking, that can't come on the market until late October. I'm hedging my bets with them and sort of saying, let's just wait and see what the market's like then. If it's still strong, we come on. If it's not, let's wait until the beginning of 2022. Because I think 2022 is going to get back to normal more so than the last 2 years that we've had. But we're still going to have huge buyer demand, I anticipate, because there's an awful lot of buyers who this year have given up a little bit, if you like. They make offer after offer after offer after offer on homes, and they're just, okay, let's just wait until next year. We're trying to talk to some of the buyers that we're working with to look at the fall market, because the fall market is going to be a strong market. There's going to be more supply, we anticipate. There's not going to be as many buyers as there have been for the remainder, for the beginning part of 2021, but there's still going to be a lot of buyers. Because, but then next year is still going to be a strong market. Got any comments about that?
Yeah. I'm a seller and I'm kind of ready to come on end of September, early October. Should I?
Yes, absolutely, okay. 100%. To the point that we say this. Sure, we say this. Cool. That's easy for me to say. Easy for us to say. We believe it. We have an investment property. Actually, we sold one in Arlington earlier on in June of this year. We have another one that has the tenants wanted to stay longer. End of July, we asked them to leave because that was the end of the lease. We've spent part of August, or the majority of August, just smartening the home up to come on the market in 2 weeks' time. So we not only say this, we do this, and that's the power of our conviction. Our conviction is 120%. Yes, now is the time to come on, if you can. If you can't, and you're thinking about late October, November.
That was my question, by the way.
Oh, that was your question? Okay. Okay. Well, you see, I know what he's thinking. If you can't, if say for instance you've got kids that you don't want to, that you want to finish their school year out next year, that's great still. but come on early in the season. Come on early, and we just ask the buyers for a longer closing. Because with seasonality, I could get into the weeds here.
Don't.
With seasonality, coming on early is a really good thing. I know. If you want to hear more about the seasonality, on our website, scroll down to where you saw the real estate statistics. Beside it, there's a video series, videos. And Marcus is going to show you.
There you go.
Okay, scroll down. Okay, see the video library? In there, we have a series called Selling Essentials. And there's over 100 in there. All different sorts of topics, and you can find out all about seasonality under general. And then I go in the weeds. I go in the weeds with a lot of that stuff because it's good to go into the weeds. I like going into the weeds.
But before you go into the weeds,
did I answer the question?
Well, I'm gonna reiterate it so buyers and sellers out there know. So if you are ready to come on the market, you just need a couple of weeks to get yourself organised.
Come on the market.
Come on the market straight away.
As soon as we can. Sooner rather than later.
Okay. If you're, it would probably be mid to end of October before I'm ready.
Or November. Be prepared. And this is what we're doing with quite a few sellers at the moment that can't come on until, the late October, November timeframe. They're getting their home prepared to come on. And then we just monitor the market. We're busy agents where we know what's happening with the market on a week-to-week basis. So we monitor what's going on then. And if the market is still strong, we bring you on. If we're starting to see a little bit of softening going into our normal seasonality, we hold and then we come on the market early 2022. Because it's important to have a strategy at play as to what we're trying to do. Because the beginning of 2022, the reason we're talking about now, first off, the reason we're talking about now being such a strong period of time to come on is we've got high buyer demand and low inventory. They're the key factors. The beginning of next year, by timing when to come on the market, and I'm not going to go into the weeds, we're recreating low inventory and strong buyer demand, because the buyers spend winter typically hibernating and thinking, we're going to move this year, we're going to move this year, we're going to move this year. And when the season starts, when the weather starts getting better, they're out in force. But there's very few homes on the market. So we can recreate what's happening right now early next year.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we can time it, we ask the buyers to have a longer closing so that your children can finish the school year, or you can go off to your next location.
Find your next home.
Yeah, that type of thing.
Okay.
So did that answer it?
Yes, that did.
If you've got more questions about this is really, really lots of fun. We have a Sellers Masterclass next Wednesday, September the 15th, 6:30, live streamed or in person. If you want to come and see it in person, we are starting to, we will be masked. We're starting to sort of wonder whether that's sort of such. We just had people asking us to do these in person. So we started last month before Delta became
that option is there. If somebody would like to do it in person, we can do it in person too.
Otherwise it
will be live streamed.
However you
just sit back with a glass of wine and do it.
Yeah, that's probably a pretty good idea because we don't offer wine. I don't know where I was going with that.
No, you're not going anywhere. So that's where to find more information. Clearly, our website has got lots and lots of information. Sellers essential videos, statistics, information about communities in the area. Lots of information on the website too.
Yep.
So, with that...
Yeah, well, we'll go back to... Yeah, with that, we need to... What do we do? Why do we do this? Why do we do these sorts of things? Because we think that our clients deserve to be the smartest people at the closing table, and that we all benefit by becoming smarter about home buying and selling, because let's face it, that's most people's largest investment.
Right.
And so having smart strategies, smart moves are made here. That's our tagline, by the way. Hey, all right. It's time to go and have that glass of wine.
There we go. So, bye from us.
Bye. Thank you for joining us.